Greetings, everyone. I have returned. Wait, I went silent for Christmas break and a little bit afterwards, but I figured now would be a good time to upload my next video in my series about explaining murder drones lore. I'm moving closer to the camera, so hopefully you can hear me better than my previous videos, but I'm not gonna take any chances. If you could hear more background noise, I'm really sorry. I cannot record in optimal or professional settings, so please be patient with that. Maybe if I, in the future, get to the point where I have enough subscribers and views, watch hours to get everything monetized, then maybe I'll be able to really improve the quality of recordings, but right now I'm just kind of working with what I have. Gotta start small. Anyway, this is the second part of my series, mainly focusing around episode 2, as well as lore, that later episodes reveal that recontextualize or give new meaning to the scenes in episode 2. Things that are essential to understanding the events of episode 2, as well as anything that episode 2 hints at for the future. I will also say that while everything I say is factual and pretty explicit given everything that Liam has been teasing and showing, I will say that obviously I can't account for everything in these scenes. Even as much as I boast, as sure as I am that I'm the number one expert, I will say that doesn't mean I know everything. New lore will be revealed in the future, and I'm sure any of it could have been foreshadowed in episode 2, and it just being at a level where I just couldn't really catch it. Liam is very clever, and I really do suspect that he's hidden things that even I couldn't find. Also note that just because I don't mention something does not mean that wasn't something I knew about. This video would be like an hour long if I explained things that I didn't perceive as important yet. There are things that I did notice that I won't be speaking of simply because we don't really know enough yet to give it proper lore significance. I'll be explaining only things that currently have an established big meaning in the lore. So anyway, now that I've said this segment, time to move on to the actual video. So, this episode starts off shortly after Uzi's absolute sulfur turns on at the beginning, at the end of episode 1. It opens up with a flashback from serial designation N, back to when he was a worker drone working in the Elliott mansion under Tessa James Elliott, as well as just James Elliott and Louisa Elliott, and also Lord Frumplebucket for some reason. I hope to learn more about him, but right now we know absolutely nothing besides him being rich and hosting the gala. Anyway, and in this flashback also sees worker drone J and V, revealing that J was always this aggressive corporate shill, but also was just a normal drone as well. See, there was also V, who was a lot more nervous at the time. You see, the worker drones, the murder drones were all formerly worker drones. They were twisted into what they currently are by a certain someone that's introduced later in the same flashback, the same dream memory. They were all twisted into what they've become by sin, a zombie drone possessed by the Absolute Solver and taken full control of as early as, well, before the series even starts. You may recall, I'm pretty sure I mentioned in episode 1 that sin was actually foreshadowed in episode 1 with text on N's visor after his head was shot off, that his Absolute Solver string was blocked by administration. This is because of the special cores Sin has installed in the murder drones. They're forbidden from using the Absolute Solver themselves or having it manifest, despite being improperly disposed of at the dump and being repaired by Tessa. They aren't allowed to become proper zombie drones except for V, who was a zombie drone for a while. Anyway, Sin ended up turning them into these eldritch abominations in the basement, which was something we've seen back in episode 5. Anyway, this flashback ends with N falling and waking up and then questioning what happened while Uzi calls him to enter the life pod. Of course, that's where they confirm that N is actually the pilot of the ship, and that the entire time he was the one who crashed the ship. Uzi's Absolute Solver eye also manifests for the, I guess, third time we see in the series. Of course, the first being in the J fight in episode 1, where she redirects J's bullets with it subconsciously. Then there's the moment at the end of episode 1 where it properly switches on. And then there's that point in episode 2 where the Absolute Solver symbol manifests in Uzi's eye again and destroys a mirror that she's staring at. The mirror cracks from the Absolute Solver, and V immediately starts prodding her about that. Of course, V knew the entire time what it was, but she kept up that lie, knowing that Uzi was a zombie drone after that, and decided that Uzi was a threat, and overall just started waiting for a chance to eliminate Uzi. Afterwards, it's revealed that Jay's corpse had a special core in it, of course the one Sid installed, in order to keep control of the murder drones, and also officially heal them without them having the Absolute Solver's power themselves. In this series, it's important to note that this is what's known as an Eldritch form. It's basically when the Absolute Solver takes control of a murder drone, or a disassembly drone as their proper name is called, and absorbs any nearby matter to heal them once their official healing is taxed. It is also important to note that while they have these Eldritch forms to heal them, even if you destroy them, that does not do anything. You do not get rid of him still. Sid has backups of him. She's cloned all of him. And the exact ratio is unknown, but she's cloned them all in accordance to which ones are more effective. For example, V and J are confirmed to be very effective and therefore cloned a lot. And probably not that much. There's a chance that Sid or the Absolute Solver favors N in some way, given how easily manipulated he was back in episode 5 in the Flashback, but that would be headcanon, so I'm not going into that. Anyway, after that, it's revealed that it's slowly killing off worker drones throughout the bunker, and Khan also talks about Uzi's grades with the teacher, where it's revealed that Uzi was always kind of insane. There was also the part where Uzi possessed Braden and through hacking, which actually might be proof that she's used the Absolute Solver before even episode 1, because simply that was later revealed to be an Absolute Solver ability, the hacking, meaning that it could be Uzi has been using it even longer than we've known, just not at the same level to where it would properly manifest or where she could understand, and that's what it was. Anyway, of course, afterwards, when Uzi is outside searching, Thad shows up to let her know that Jay's corpse was moving and that he'd got her railgun. After he returned it to her, after immediately showing up at the worst possible time, right where Uzi reveals that she's developed a god complex and gets horribly embarrassed from it, Thad tags along with him to hunt down Eldritch J. This ends up not going very well as they all trek through the little colony of the worker drones and slowly find out that Eldritch J is not what they expected at all. They see a symbol on the wall that directly corresponded to Uzi's eye. Of course, the Absolute Solver symbol, with a note, with an error code and a message that there was insufficient matter for the Absolute Solver. That's where Uzi half correctly deduced that the Absolute Solver was an auto-run program to collect more matter whenever a worker drone, or not even just worker drones, really worker drones don't have it, only zombie drones have it properly, and disassembly drones have a connection to it that's mostly blocked. But she deduced that it allows them to regenerate whenever they're damaged, which she was partly correct in her deduction. While it is true that the Absolute Solver is what allows them to heal, and it works by manipulating matter, it is so much more. I don't remember if I went over this in the last one, but the Absolute Solver is essentially this reality warping program. It works by reading reality around it as if it's coding and editing it that way. It's a virus developed from the damages in the AIs of other worker drones, which became zombie drones. That AI, therefore, has a small chance of manifesting in every single drone with AI damages, specifically ones that were improperly disposed of, or are descendants of drones that are improperly disposed of, i.e., Nori and Uzi. It really is a mysterious part of the series, but it's definitely gotten a lot of time shut on it, and is very much an integral part of the story in every sense. So, anyway, more cringe music in the background. This is going to be a nightmare to get rid of. But as I was saying before that loud audio cut me off, the thing is, they tracked Eldritch J down after it got fad and showed its twisted centipede-like form now that it's absorbed humans from the cryopods, as well as worker drones, to become this biomechanical abomination. Uzi soon realized from its words that it was not at all just this program like they had expected. It reveals that they're all its cute puppets in its own words, referring to zombie drones like Uzi and disassembly drones like N. Everything to the absolute sulfur is just another puppet manipulated for its purpose. We don't know its full plan exactly, but we know that it wants to destroy all human colonies, hence its slow effort at destroying each planet that the humans have colonized via its admins, with three confirmed admins that we know of being Uzi, Nori, and Sid. There's obviously been more, given that it's also been through the Proximus system, and Uzi and Nori are both admins of the Copper system, but we haven't actually seen any of the other admins. We also don't know if they're going in a straight line right now, or if it's been branching both directions and has also invaded other solar systems. We'll see that over time, hopefully. Anyone? Uzi and Ed team up to stop Eldritch J, seemingly, but Eldritch J rips off Khan's head, throws his corpse to the side, but conveniently, there's somehow another Khan that she eats. This whole thing traumatized Uzi, but you could guess it. It was just a hologram. It's a really interesting detail that I don't get how that many people miss. Obviously, when she chucked Khan's body to the side, and then somehow it was completely intact for her to eat in her hands. Yeah, it was incredibly obvious that it was a hologram. But honestly, it's not even really much of an edgy moment, which is something I love. It's something that had genuine, real, emotional weight, rather than just being there for pure shock value. Because we, as an audience, are supposed to pick up that it's fake, but Uzi does not know that. And then this is what triggers her to really lose the god complex. It's what shows that she really is in over her head, and she is unable to actually shoot Eldritch J, even though theoretically she should have been able to do it easily. Then N shows up again to help her, but when she gives him the railgun to shoot Eldritch J, it turns out that Ed was a hologram as well, and that Eldritch J was just messing with her and trying to make her look stupid as well. And at the time, she was, I guess, we don't really know why Eldritch J was trying to kill her there. Maybe it had decided she was failing as an admin at the time, or that she wasn't going to become an admin, but since she did later, I'll just skip over those headcanons right now. Anyone? But she almost killed Uzi right there before the real Ed showed up and cut off Eldritch J's arm. And because Eldritch J had destroyed Uzi's railgun, it caused an explosion of some sort. I'm not exactly a scientific genius, but it doesn't really make sense why it exploded, to be honest. It honestly, I just don't get it, because Uzi's railgun has confirmed to be photonic. She specifically calls it a magnetically amplified photon converger, which means it fires real light that's been amplified by magnetism in order to be able to do damage. I don't get why anything. I don't get why the railgun explodes when it's destroyed, but I guess that's a topic for another day. All I know is that the real shots don't explode like people are trying to say. It's really stupid, to be honest. I don't get how anyone sees it as an explosion when every time you look there's zero area of effect and nothing is hit besides what's directly shot at. Anyway, because of this event, Eldritch J, the core that the Absolute Solver controls, tries to sneak away, but is destroyed by N. And it dissolves into a little black hole and floats away. So far, we don't know which strand of the Absolute Solver this was. There's a few strands of the Absolute Solver that are important, such as the null string, the edit string, the translate string, the scale string, and the rotate string, but all of them are very secondary to null. Edit is what allows others to edit reality, and I guess sometimes scan things for information. One of the main reasons we know that the Absolute Solver reads reality itself as coding, but it's still fun information to think about. There's really basic things like rotate, which just rotates things. Then there's something like translate, which allows you to transmutate matter and change it to different forms, as well as change the position. And of course, there's also scale, which allows you to telekinetically move things. Wait, no. No. Telekinesis is also translate. But I forgot what scale does, but you get the point. Null is the one used to create black holes and destroy planets. But because null black holes have the word null on them, and because they also tend to work differently, they tend to be offensive and actually function like black holes, we don't really know what string the black hole teleportation used by Dahl and the Absolute Solver is. We don't know which string that is. We do know that the null string could be somewhat involved in some way, though I highly doubt it given that null's supposed to be an admin exclusive and Dahl is no admin, but we also do know that null can manipulate gravity, given that Uzi, when she used it, gravity around her shut off and everything started floating. So it is shown that Null has other abilities. The black hole is just the main application that the Absolute Solver uses to destroy planets. Anyway, I should stop getting off track with this Absolute Solver talk and move to the next part. Because the thing is, it gets even more complicated. Now that Uzi actually saw the hologram of Khan die and saw what Eldritch J was, that's when she realized something. The murder drones are not what they seem. They seemed like just simple robot vampires in the form of mechanical angels, but they are something much darker and more severe under it all. I've said this same thing so many times in my videos because I cannot stress enough the impact of that scene. It was truly meant to show us that, in the end, we could not understand just how much bigger and worse everything was than it had seemed prior. The thing is, Uzi, she was under an assumption that they were very specific things. She was under the assumption that J.C. Jensen actually sent the disassembly drones. She was under the assumption that there was no bigger problems out there. But that episode shattered it all. Her God complex was gone just like that. As she just sat there wondering which parts of everything were real, what was an illusion, and what wasn't. Mainly, of course, pondering whether Khan was actually alive or not. Ed tried to help. He tried to comfort Uzi about the situation, but it just didn't work. Uzi was terrified, and she just asked him what they are, what those creatures are, the disassembly drones, and Ed eventually just left. He didn't like that Uzi was afraid of him. He felt guilty because Ed is an absolute cinnamon roll under everything. A lot of people get mad that Ed hasn't been as aggressive as he was in episode 1. They say he's gotten less interesting and dynamic, but people tend to forget that Ed was never a sadistic character. He's always very clearly been rather innocent, naive, and childish in terms of how he acts, and has just been really trying to get the approval of J and V, who treated him awfully at the time. V, due to keeping up her facade and trying to keep Ed from getting in more danger. And also J, who just doesn't like how Ed is useless in her opinion. And has never really been horrible. He's just always been trying to get the approval of people who have not been treating him well at all. And is honestly one of the more mentally mature characters as well, which kind of adds new charm to his dynamic that is actually interesting. He acts childish and naive, but he also has the most mature way of dealing with trauma and helping others around him. Really fun to watch. I'm gonna check the camera real quick, Alright. Decided to reset the camera just in case. Anyway, continuing. As I was saying, N he really hasn't regressed as a character like people think, and has actually developed. The thing is, people want V to return to the way she used to be, rather than the way she is now, and call that progression, when really that's just regression. It devolves her character, pushes her away from the point where she ended. That's something I hate with a burning passion, but and he's really developed past everything and moved forward, and has actually been important to the story, but people say that he's doing nothing and that he's regressed as a character. It's ridiculous how people get it twisted so much. But anyway, and in the final moments of the episode, Uzi manages to escape she manages to survive, but Ed leaves for a bit because he's afraid that he's too dangerous to be around Uzi. And Cod watches Ed leave while sending Uzi back to her room in the colony. At the end, Uzi stares at the roof, and there's a lot of interesting pictures, such as some drawn by Ed, some of the singularity, etc. It's very interesting stuff. Honestly, it's crazy to believe how much Uzi and Nori just have this insane stuff lying around that's so important to the lore. We of course know it's because Nori was a previous admin and a member of Cabin Fever Labs and Camp 98.7 organizations, but you get it. Really, J.C. Jensen wasn't as bad as they made it out in the first episode. They're still frustrating and stupid, thinking they could understand the absolute solver, but really, the big villain is the absolute solver. It controlled Sid. It's trying to possess Uzi now, which it's succeeding because Uzi became an admin. And it's twisted everyone's life into a direction that cannot be changed. It twisted V's life around to the point where she has to feign insanity in order to actually make it. It's not good, and things just keep getting worse. Uzi's mother died because of the absolute solver. After she escaped, before she could destroy the planet, the disassembly drone still got her. Uzi inherited damaged AI from Nori, which manifested in the absolute solver. Doll, her family, was also destroyed by the disassembly drones, it being V this time. In the end, even Tessa suffered horribly because of the absolute solver. All of the human life on Earth was destroyed. Her arm was, like, this one is a headcanon, I will say, but just again, it is heavily implied that one of Tessa's arms is a prosthetic, and that Sin cut it off. There's been a lot of arm imagery with Tessa, and in the Elliot Gala flashback in episode 4, it was revealed that Sin was eating a human arm. Anyone? If this seems sudden, sorry, but I did reach the end of episode 2 here. I finished off explaining the lore of episode 2, Heartbeat, so I'm ending this here. We'll see more videos about this in the future, though I will not promise that I'll do all of them in a row. I'll probably start doing other videos again as well in between.